So, welcome to Northern Powerhouses, our business success stories series of interviews, where we discuss with local business leaders their backgrounds, their successes, their challenges, and what's really driving them forwards. And this morning, I'm delighted to have with us Simon Kean, who's Chief Commercial Officer at Data Connect. So, firstly, Simon, thank you for joining us. And if you'd like to introduce yourself, Data Connect, what you do, how you help people, that would be wonderful.
Good morning, Chris, and thanks very much for having me. My name's Simon Kean. As you said, I'm the Chief Commercial Officer at Data Connect. I'm the founder of Data Connect just over 20 years ago now.
Brilliant.
Data Connect is a cybersecurity managed service provider, and we work with a range of customers from small businesses, typically around 50 employees and above, and through to companies around 1,000 employees. We have lots of customers above that, but that's predominantly the area of customer that we help. And to sort of put this in a nutshell, we help customers with cybersecurity challenges.
Yeah.
So we help them identify the risks. We help them identify what they're doing right, what they're doing wrong, what they've missed, and what they should be doing really. We help them then make sure they've got the right protections in place, and give them technical advice and business advice on that. We then help them detect any malicious activity from cyber criminals. We then help them plan for their response if the worst happens and they do have an attack. And then the final sort of piece of the jigsaw is that we help them recover, and we help them plan for recovery of a cyber attack. So it's a real holistic 360-degree view of cybersecurity, and dealing with lots of businesses, lots of different shapes and sizes, all of whom have different challenges. And it's really to give them the attention that they need and require to give them the correct advice and resource and services moving forward.
Yeah, I mean, and obviously so vital what you do. Given, I mean, obviously just recently we saw an attack at Jaguar Land Rover, and I know when we first started talking, the Marks and Spencer incident had just occurred, and so clearly, while sort of individuals might feel that it's not relevant to them, I assume it's got to be relevant to any business, any organization right now.
Absolutely, Chris. And these sort of mainstream attacks go straight into the news because of the size of them and the impact of them. With Jaguar Land Rover having to close down plants and losing millions of pounds every day. Marks and Spencer's one that anyone who's a home IT user through to sort of business leaders, everyone took note of that because it's a household name. People do their shopping there. And people are getting hit personally by scammers, by cyber criminals. But it just shows you the whole sort of spectrum of what can happen and the devastation that it can cause to businesses.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And I mean, I'm interested. It is obviously we're sort of not quite early. We're quite early doors with AI. Is AI having an impact on cybersecurity in general? I would imagine the ability to automate some of these processes must be quite challenging for people like yourself that are trying to protect us.
Absolutely. I mean, AI is absolutely an enabler for us in the technology that we use and that we provide for customers. It's something that we're building into our web application that we designed that has facets that help companies. And there's some extremely powerful tasks that it can do for every business, from marketing through to the deep technical work that we do. But conversely, the cyber criminals have access to this technology and are harnessing that to make the attacks wider, more prevalent, and more successful, in all honesty.
Yeah, yeah, I can imagine. And so you mentioned 20 years. Congratulations, you've been operating 20 years. I don't know if you know, a lot of people aren't aware of the unfortunate stats around business failure, but ultimately, on average, across the board, 80% of businesses fail in the first 5 years of operation. And of the 20% that survive, another 80% of those will fail in the following 5 years. So to get just to 10 years, you're in the top 4% the businesses. So I honestly don't have the stats for 20. I should do because I've got my business is similar, but you're in very, very high levels of stability and as a business to get to 20.
Absolutely. It's and our industry has evolved out of all recognition over those
I
20
imagine.
years. You know, when we started, it was quite difficult to have a sensible conversation with a customer, to talk about cybersecurity technology, and there was a reticence to invest in that technology 20 years ago, and it's gone full circle now, where it is a must. You know,
Yeah.
have to invest in technology, the services, in compliance standards, and so on and so forth. Because if you don't, it's the consequences are threatening for every business.
That's it. It's really interesting you said that because I'm just thinking there's some comparison with my my profession. In 20 years ago, we people hadn't heard of business coaching. It was very much a new thing, and so explaining what we did when people understood the value, um, we were the only people providing it. So it was like the conversation wasn't about why we were the best business coaching organization in the world. It was business coaching will help you do this. Oh, okay. I might be interested. Now, unfortunately, every man and his dog's a business coach. They could spend 99 quid for a 2-day course and they're now a business coach. We're not doing this well enough at the moment at differentiating the fact that we've been doing this for 35 years as a global organization. I'll be doing it for 20, and we're not doing well enough to differentiate itself from somebody that's, as I say, paid £99 and had a 2-day course. And I would imagine, over your period of time, is originally it was explaining why it was important to have cybersecurity. Now it's more about differentiation with, I guess, some of the competition. I appreciate still quite a niche business, but I would imagine you've seen other competition grow over time.
Absolutely, Chris. I mean, going back to the early years, you'd be meeting people socially. It was, oh, what do you do, Simon? And I would explain what we did, and people would look at you in bewilderment, thinking, what does that mean? And they'd sort of turn to their husband or whatever and say, he's in IT. And nowadays, all you have to say is cybersecurity, and everyone knows what you're talking about. Most people have read about it, as we were saying, with M&S attacks, Jaguar Land Rover, etc., or they've witnessed it at first hand. And it is a subject that is uppermost in people's thoughts, I think, really. And because of that, the industry is fiercely competitive because of the types of attacks. There's new technology coming out every day, and it is a fiercely competitive industry.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. So let's go even further back than the 20 years. If you tell us a little bit about your background, how you got into business and why this particular one for you, because it must be quite an interesting place to go at that point 20 years ago when it was probably a lot newer as a requirement.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll try not to bore you too much with my prior history, Chris.
All
But
good.
I left school at 18. I decided not to go to university. I was at the stage where I wanted some money in my pocket, and I wanted to car and that sort of thing. And I really wasn't sure which career path to take, in all honesty. My father was in the insurance industry. So I went to a company called Eagle Star Insurance to do some training, who don't exist anymore. That market's completely changed as well. And trained and worked in that until the year 2000, I think, and I worked for numerous insurance brokers. And I got to the stage where I got a bit disillusioned. It wasn't really sort of floating my boat, to be quite honest. I wouldn't see myself doing that for the rest of my days. And quite fortuitously, an opportunity came up, and I took it with a big tech company in Harrogate, and I sort of took that with both hands and went into that, not knowing an awful lot about the industry. And I progressed through that company, and ended up going into sales and doing quite well. The sort of penny dropped with me that I thought I want to start my own company was when we were dealing with lots of partners who were bringing so-called opportunities to us that really were only, that's the name of our customer. That's the name of the person. We think they need this.
Yeah.
We had to do the rest,
Yeah.
right through the sales cycle, through to contractual negotiations. And I thought, well, hang on a minute. I'm doing this for a third party. Maybe I should be doing that myself. And so I started my own company, and cybersecurity was an area that I just found fascinating, and nothing stays the same from day to
Yeah.
day. And it's been amazing to see how it's developed over that 20
Yeah.
years.
I can really imagine that. Sounds fascinating. And so looking at the growth of the business, and obviously over that 20 years, what are some of the biggest challenges you've had to overcome, Simon?
Challenges, I think really I've covered. I think in the early days it was making people aware of
Yeah.
views and what they needed to invest in. I think almost certainly the biggest challenge for quite a number of years now, and certainly today, is the competition. I liken it to GDPR. If you remember the
Yes.
data protection regulations that came out,
Yep.
overnight, there were people who were selling used cars the day before who were rebadging themselves as GDPR experts. And we see a lot of prevalence of that in our industry.
Yep.
People are experts in cybersecurity. And it's really important for us to differentiate for the extremely um, good technical staff that we've managed to accumulate here, that we are different, that we do things differently, and it's working closely with businesses, and giving them the attention to detail, giving them the support on the resource that they need, that really does differentiate it, rather than just going in and selling products.
Yeah. Brilliant. Brilliant. And whether it's from the challenges or the successes you've had, what are some of the biggest learnings you've got about growing a business? What are the key things, facets, would you think, of growing a successful and creating longevity as you have?
Um, I think some of the big things, again, it probably relates to what I've just said, really,
Yeah.
and it's extremely important to get the right proposition for
Yeah.
customers, and it's really, really paramount importance to employ the right staff as well. We've assembled an amazing team here at Data
Brilliant.
Connect with some really, really clever guys in our technical team, who offer an amazing support and service to customers who just simply don't have that. But that sort of resource is to get resource at that sort of level, and it's becoming extremely expensive. So those are real challenges to our businesses that we've got to overcome.
Yep. Yeah, no, I think businesses are founded on great people, aren't they? And I think it's, obviously experience is key, but also the values, the culture match that they want to be part of this business, this team. It's really, really important as leaders that we engage people at that level as well. I think to keep it
And
from.
I think one of the main things that we want to do now is that we aim to do as a business is not just engage with IT people. We see a need to engage with business people. So we're talking a lot in the boardroom. We're talking to execs, and at the end of the day, the buck stops with them.
Yep.
And then, as far as business risk, the thing, and I think a lot of them are extremely appreciable of what the risks are.
Yep.
But it's really a subject that they don't quite have the knowledge.
Yep.
And they want the assurance from companies like Data Connect that they are doing things right, that they are investing their money in that direction, and that is, it's a challenge, a real challenge, to get through to actually converse with those people. But that is what we're attempting to do, and a lot of that is through educational material, and we work with them, and I think that does resonate when we sort of come across their vision.
I guess it's with the sort of national examples that we're seeing this year, it clearly is a significant risk now. Every business owner or CEO needs to have on their agenda. alongside competitive risk, reputational risk, all these other things. It really is front and center now.
It is, which is a good thing.
Yep.
But the bad side of that is knee-jerk reactions.
Yeah. Okay.
Business will see that. They'll see a competitor being potentially taken out of business by a cyber attack. If they're in the retail industry, the M&S attack, obviously, it's like we've got to do something here. And business can tend to make knee-jerk reactions, which typically involve big investments, and they're not always the right investments.
Yeah.
They're not always getting the return from that they should do, and potentially they're not addressing the right areas that are pertinent to risk in their business.
That makes perfect sense. I suppose it's the classic of, don't wait till you're under attack to engage with you. It's like, it's like I say, don't wait till it's raining to fix the roof. Let's get this.
It's too late, Chris.
Yeah.
If they do that, then at
Yeah.
the end of the day, we do provide incident response services, but when there is no plan for that incident, and there's no plan to respond, and there's no plan to recover, then the business is under real threat potentially.
Yeah. No, that makes perfect sense. Now, I think you're aware we're a business coaching organisation, Simon. I'm keen to know who the best coaches you've worked with, whether that's business, sport, or life in general. Who's been the biggest influence or impact on you?
Just something's just sort of. I think the best coach I've ever had goes back to my rugby days.
Yeah.
When I was in school, I know we're going a bit off tangent from
No, not at all.
The business track there, but
Not at all.
we had I think I was around 12, 13, 14, and we had a rugby coach who was inspirational, to be quite honest with you.
Really?
We were of that age where we hadn't heard that many swear words, but we learned an awful lot from him. And he had us fired up before we got on that pitch like you would not believe. And as a coach, he was absolutely amazing and inspirational. I'll never forget him.
Brilliant.
I think from a business perspective, I've learned a lot from a lot of people, and I think my ethos towards business and customer support and attention to detail actually has come from my father. I mentioned before that he sort of got me into the insurance industry, and for a couple of years I actually worked for him. He had a small insurance brokerage, and I worked for him. And his attention to detail, his ethic towards work and towards looking after customers, that was the paramount thing.
Yep.
Because less customers were people that he knew, and they were trusting their businesses, their homes, their cars with that insurance. If they had a claim, they had to be dealt with. And I think I've taken that ethos sort of support and really going the extra mile for customers into Data Connect as a business.
Brilliant. I can understand why. I might as well fess up that I know your father very, very, very well, and I can totally understand why he's a great role model for you. And I would,
he was an text master as well.
Yeah, no, those two things go together. Brilliant. I can understand that, and I know, he's in touch with some of his clients and ex-clients. So I think that's the mark of somebody that built strong relationships, and I think I can totally understand why you'd say that. And no, and by the way, you're not absolutely not going off beam when you talk about rugby coaches, because coaching is coaching, and I think it's learning those principles of coaching for wherever they come from, and as an organisation, we take most of the coaching principles that we follow from sport, because it's been around for that long. But it's the combination of that and then the business knowledge that we have. And so whether it's from your coach, obviously without the swear words, whether it's from the coach, your father, do you have any favourite quotes or sayings about business or about success that you catch yourself using on a regular basis?
I think that the phrase that gets bandied around in our household and beyond is every day's a school day, and nothing is more true of the industry we're in, because to keep pace with the types of attacks, the risks that customers are facing, the technology the areas that cyber criminals are finding to exploit is you have to learn every single day. You have to keep in touch, and you also have to keep in touch with how that manifests itself in customer requirements as well. So we have to sort of treat every day as a school day, and people that think they have expertise in cybersecurity and they know it all, that they're talking rubbish, to be quite frank.
Yeah.
As other other sayings I'm trying to think of. I mean, sort of fail to prepare, prepare to fail, I think
Yeah.
is one. Especially
Great.
if we're speaking to a customer or we're doing a boardroom presentation, it's paramount that we understand their company, we do the research, we prepare the subject matter right, and that is very important to us as a business as well.
Yeah, brilliant, brilliant. And do you have any favorite books or podcasts books you read, podcasts you follow about, again, business success, life in general?
I have to say, Chris, apart from Action Coach podcasts, I don't, in all honesty, I don't get a huge amount of time to follow podcasts.
Yeah.
I did try the Stephen Bartlett,
Yeah.
Marry the CEO, when I was on a long car journey going to see a customer. I thought, well, I've got 2 or 3 hours here, and I'll see what these are like. And to be quite honest with you, I'm not sure he subscribes to yours, but I thought it was poor. It didn't give me. I didn't find it amazingly interesting. I think the ones he's done latterly, where he's interviewing
Yeah.
people, I think they're very good. I have to say.
Yes.
But then again, our industry, that there are huge amounts of podcasts. So if I want to learn about a subject, or I want to brush up on a subject, or get someone's view on a subject, I will look for a podcast. But that could be a random selection. So I'm not particularly following a series of podcasts, really.
No, I would say probably similar. I like to dive in, dive out. Quite often, it's the guests on the podcast that are the draw, rather than necessarily the individuals that run them. And yeah, no, but yeah, Stephen Bartlett's got has had some really interesting people on there, especially latterly. I know we do quite a lot of work with Daniel Priestley, and I think he's got the record. I think he's been on the podcast 6 times with Stephen. I think there's quite a big bromance going on there, I would imagine. But yeah, the two of them together really, really fire off each other well. And talking about learning, Simon, what would you say you've learned about yourself throughout your journey so far?
I'm reasonably good at perseverance. Is what I'd say there.
Really?
Every business has its challenges, and certainly to be going for over 20 years, I've had to have that perseverance. But that's really stemmed from a deep interest in the subject matter, in the industry, and doing what we set out to do, which is to help companies. Obviously, every company sets out to be successful and to make money, but what drives us on is that dialogue with customers and helping them.
Absolutely. And I think that is very much a secret of many successful businesses. We actually call it the rule of precession, i.e., and it's often working what we think to be 90 degrees from the actual outcome. So the outcome for a business, but by dint of it, would be make more money and grow, etc. But the way you do it is by helping as many people as you can, and 100%. And I one of the other guys I've interviewed a couple of times for this podcast was runs the cut and craft chain of restaurants, and Lucia as well. He had 2 brands, and I always remember him saying, Chris, he said, people work hard for the money they spend at my restaurants, so I insist they get the best food, the best experience, the best outcome, irrespective of the profitability. And guess what? He's a very successful, profitable business because of that.
Especially in the catering industry, you have to be good, or you don't survive. It's as simple as that.
Yeah, well, we both live fairly close to Harrogate, and you can obviously Harrogate's a good example of how many restaurants come and go so quickly. It's yeah, you've got to be really good. I always like to ask entrepreneurial people, how good are you at celebrating, Simon, in terms of celebrating your business success? A lot of entrepreneurs I meet, they're not particularly good. They're always looking at what's yet to be achieved rather than what they have achieved. You're 20 years in. How well have you celebrated your 20th anniversary?
Uh, 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 well, we did celebrate, and it's something that we need to do more of because we have some fantastic staff here
Yes.
who work really hard at the business, and it's something that we are making a conscious effort to, to do more often. When we do it well. We
Good.
roll out the red carpet, and
Brilliant.
we will do it, and we'll celebrate in style. But it is something for morale and all the rest of it. I think is really important to every business to make sure that you celebrate getting over challenges and you celebrate your successes.
Yes, it for me it builds resilience. The challenge is if we don't celebrate our successes and lock them in, when times do get tough, we've got nothing to fall back on. It's like what but we've overcome this, and it's actually bringing that feeling of we are successful. Right now might be a challenge, but we can overcome this, like we've overcome other things. It's really
You're absolutely right, and I'm glad you've mentioned that because I need to make a mental note to do that more often because I have in the past sort of had a celebration for a few seconds. Thought, oh, we've won that. There's been 6 months work in that, and but then I'm straight on to the next thing. And it is really important to take that step back and give yourself a pat on the back, give the team a pat on the back, and celebrate it because these things don't come easily. Business doesn't come easy, and you are fighting off a lot of competition to win business quite often.
and I think there's a business value there. I know we do a lot of work with a guy called Frank Dick, who's a athletics coach, been around for a very long time. And one thing I heard him say a few years back, which has stuck with me really strongly, was most organizations, teams, sports people will have an analysis of things that go wrong because we want to fix it, make sure it doesn't happen again. Absolutely natural black box thinking. It went wrong. What went wrong? Let's avoid that in the future. He says, but the challenge is if we don't both celebrate, but in his point, if we don't understand, if we don't analyze success, then if we're not careful, it was just luck. So analyzing what went right as well as what went wrong is really, really key.
Absolutely, absolutely, and everyone in the business has a voice, has an opinion,
Yes.
and just because I run the business doesn't mean that I'm always right. In fact, it's quite to the contrary. And as I mentioned before, we've got a great team here, and it's really important that everyone has that platform to chip in because everyone has their own slant on things, and it's a team effort at the end of the day.
Yeah. Brilliant. No, it's funny going back to that idea of celebrating. I'm a friend of my guy called Philip Hesketh, he lives in Harrogate, but he's an international speaker on persuasion and influence. Brilliant, brilliant speaker, one of the best speakers I've ever heard. He told me this story, and one of the things he set out when he had an advertising business in Leeds for many many years, and when he left that, he became a public speaker, and he said, and he was speaking, I think it was New Zealand at the time, and he was sort of the MC for the evening, so he wasn't the main speaker. The main speaker was the first man to climb Everest with two artificial limbs. So this amazing, this achievement of like first man to do it. So you're in history. That's set. And they were having dinner before this guy spoke, and Philip said to him, what did it feel like when you got to the top? You're the first man to do this. Must have. I mean, it's hard enough to do it when you've fully, you've got all four limbs, but you've done it with two artificial limbs. And the guy apparently said to Pete, to Philip, there was about 3 or 4 minutes of absolute euphoria. We've made it, we've done it. I've what, everything, all that stuff. And then I thought, what's next? And I just think you're going to put all that effort to make something happen like that. 3 minutes is like, surely the best. Sorry.
It sounds familiar. And that's exactly what it's a similar sort of principle. Yeah. But I suppose he had to work out how to get down as well, didn't he?
Yeah, I would imagine. Yeah, yeah. There's probably that, but yeah, how do I get down there? But no, I mean it's interesting. We get all our clients together every quarter to do what we call quarterly action planning. So obviously you have longer term goals, but quarterly, what the next 13 weeks, what are we going to do to grow the business? But part of that session is one of the most important parts is celebration, and we get people to at their tables, and then as a complete group talk about the things they've achieved. And what's great to see is things that people often think as being, just okay. Other people go, that's amazing. You won 3 more clients, or you brought on 5 more people, or your turnover grew by 20% in 3 months. And it's just that it helps people get that realization of that was good, wasn't it? It was like, if we're not careful, it just becomes the norm. Yeah, well, we did that. We did something like that last month or last quarter. So, and it's so, I just feel it's so important for building that, say, that resilience. And again, as you said, for your team, because the team needs to know why they're doing it. We as owners of businesses, we might have different reasons, but for team, I think it's so key to see how good we are.
Yeah, absolutely. And as we said before, it's everyone in that team. So, it's not just the people with technical prowess. It's everyone has their role to play in the business, and
Yes.
it all helps to the end product and the service that we give to customers. So every role is absolutely important.
Absolutely. I think there's that great story about JFK at NASA headquarters, and he was doing the tour, and they walked down one hallway, and there was a janitor there just cleaning the floor. Janitor there, and he said, "What do you do?" And he says, "I help to put people on the moon." Because that was, keeping the place clean was as important to the mission as any other, or certainly is key to the mission. So, and I just think it's a great one. We all know what our purpose is, whatever our role is in an organisation. I think that's so key. And Simon, we have a definition of a true business in Action Coach, which is a true business is a commercial, profitable enterprise that works without its owners. Um, how do you feel about that as a statement and a definition of a true business?
So sorry, Chris, I missed that. Can you repeat that? Sorry.
It's all right. So
With a bit of an echo here. Sorry.
yeah, no, it's all good. So for us, a true business is a commercial, profitable enterprise that works without its owners. In other words, while it's dependent on its owners, it isn't a true business. The owners have a job because they're still trading time for money. That's no problem with that, especially if they love the job and it's a well-paid job. But a business, typically, our goal would be to help people grow businesses that ultimately can work without them. How do you feel about that as a definition, and where would you say you are right now?
Around sort of businesses sort of running on their own, do you mean, or without the? Yeah, I mean, I think we in our sort of technical teams, we try and sort of give responsibility to lots of different people in there. So and we have to build in resilience to the business. We offer 4x7 security services. So
Yes.
if someone doesn't turn up or can't do something, there has to be someone that can sort of fill in the void. So it's critical to us as a business to to have that.
Brilliant. And looking forward now, Simon, what does the future look like for Data Connect, and what challenges do you think you might face, if any?
I think the future for Data Connect rests on how we communicate with new customers.
Yep.
We keep service levels as good as they are for existing customers, and we have very little churn of customers. So we're obviously doing something right. But I think we really have to keep our fingers on the pulse as to what's changing, and we need to move with the times. We need to be flexible, and we need to be able to move quickly to adapt. I think the industry and from a cybersecurity perspective, things we have exciting projects on the go. I think looking forward, it's quite a scary landscape, to be perfectly honest with you. I think with AI technology, quantum computing, these are all things that can be harnessed for the good. But as we said at the outset, there are also things that can be harnessed by cyber criminals, nation state attacks, that sort of thing.
Yep.
and it's absolutely imperative that we and tech companies in our industry do move with the times and keep their fingers on the pulse and keep educating and keep assisting businesses, because otherwise there is a that threat to them, and that impact to business is only ever going to get worse.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense. Makes perfect sense. And I'm keen to know what you'd say to anyone that was thinking of going into business right now. What would be your best advice?
Have a plan.
Great.
Have a plan. Have a passion. I think that is the biggest thing, that you've got to have a passion and an interest in something to make it work. To make it work. Without that, it's going to be very hard to do something just because you can see a pot of gold at the end of the rainbow. So do something that you find of interest. Do something that you've got a passion and something that you can see an end goal in the product or the service that you're creating,
Right.
and have a plan and work hard. It's as simple as that. I don't think there's those are the main points for me, really.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah, couldn't agree more. And if you started again, Simon, is there anything significant that you do differently, do you think? Or
I think what I do differently is I've probably retired 10 years ago with about 50 million sat in the bank. You would and in life, probably what I've done differently is not support Sheffield Wednesday, things like you know. But I think I think what I'd have done differently. I think everyone in business would have looked back retrospectively and think, well, could have done that better. I could have done that better. Maybe we should have made that decision. You can't do anything about it. All you can do is we mistakes. Is as simple as that. So I think it's good. It's good sort of looking back with hindsight, but learn from it is my opinion there, really.
no, bang on, makes perfect sense. And finally, what's the best advice you could give an 18-year-old you if you could go back in time and do that?
An 18-year-old me. Now
Yeah.
that's a frightening thought. If I could remember that far back. And any advice I'd have given an 18-year-old me wouldn't have listened anyway, Chris. To be perfectly honest with you. I think the advice for an 18-year-old. I mean, even at 18, you're pretty wet behind the ears in a lot of things. So I would learn from peers that you respect.
Yep.
You need to make a judgment on that. Learn from people. And I cast my mind back to when I was 18, when I was working in insurance, and I wanted to supplement that income, and I worked in a pub, and it was one of the best jobs I've ever had in my life. I always look fondly back at that because
Brilliant.
I was meeting people,
Yeah.
and I was learning from people, and I was learning how to change conversations to different people, and that all those sort of life skills set you up well for business. So it's and treating people with respect and that sort of thing. So I think going back to 18, those are the things that sort of stood me in good stead.
Brilliant. Simon, it's been fascinating talking to you, and thank you for spending the time with us. And obviously, what you're doing right now is so relevant to so many people, so many businesses. For anyone that's watching would like to get in touch with you or Data Connect, what would be the best way of doing that?
Well, the best way to get hold of us is pick up the phone. All our contact details are on our website, dataconnect.co.uk. We post a fair bit on LinkedIn, so you can check us out on that. And all I would say on that is, don't have any hesitation to give us a call. And I think, particularly in our industries, people are inundated with cold calls and that sort of thing. So I think that all I would say is we are not an in-your-face sales organization.
Yep.
What we want to do is to listen.
Yeah.
Listen to what a customer wants. Listen to the challenges that they face, and genuinely, we want to help them. And we can probably do that without them spending any money with us. We it's paramount for us to develop long-term relationships, and we don't do that by just sort of going in and selling a product and disappearing. It's just not our style.
Brilliant. Well, it'd be great to swing by another 6, 12 months and just see what next stages of business growth and potentially the cyber situation at that point. But for now, thank you so much for your time.
That's a pleasure, Chris. Many thanks.
Thank you.